President Trump defending his ban while signing new executive orders in the Oval Office as well, saying the government was totally prepared to implement the policy. ABC's David Wright is at the White House with what else the president said about the new immigration ban. David, good morning.
Good morning, Tom. The federal court injunction certainly casts a shadow over this new policy. Initially, the administration had dismissed any outcry, but today they're going to have to regroup. The president still insisting the policy is working out exactly the way he meant it to. President Trump is not conceding an inch to critics at home and abroad who call his executive order a Muslim ban.
It's not a Muslim ban, but we were totally prepared. It's working out very nicely. You see it at the airports, you see it all over. It's working out very nicely.
No hate, no fear.
Of course, those crowds at the airports would beg to differ. Candidate Trump first floated the idea on Pearl Harbor Day 2015 after a deadly workplace shooting in San Bernardino.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
Back then, Mike Pence called the idea offensive and unconstitutional. House Speaker Paul Ryan condemned it too.
Some of our best and biggest allies in this struggle and fight against radical Islamic terror are Muslims, the vast, 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 vast majority of whom are peaceful.
Now Ryan has changed his tune, saying President Trump is right to make sure we're doing everything possible to know exactly who is entering our country. So far, only a handful of Republicans in the House or Senate have raised any objections about the policy. The vast majority seem to be fine with it, leaving it to Democrats like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who's demanding the Department of Homeland Security rescind the policy, calling it mean-spirited and un-American. Do you worry that this will foment anger at America?
It has. It already has.
We sought out Keezer Khan, the Gold Star father who spoke at the Democratic National Convention.
Have you even read the United States Constitution? I will gladly lend you my copy.
What would he like to tell Trump now?
Read the Constitution. Be familiar with the values that has made us beacon of hope. Do not make mockery of the legal system.
Well, this injunction applies to anyone caught in airports right now. People who traveled to this country already had boarded their planes in good faith, expecting to be allowed in. People who are boarding planes today from those affected countries, citizens of those countries, will likely not be allowed to board. But the whole thing's causing a lot of confusion, Tom.
And Dave, this executive order may come up in conversations the president is going to have with more foreign leaders today?
That's right, Tom. Today, the president has phone calls scheduled with the King of Saudi Arabia and the Crown Prince of the United Arab Emirates, two Arab countries that are not on the list affected by this new policy. And they'll also be rethinking their strategy in light of the federal court's injunction. Tom?
A very busy weekend for the new president and administration. All right, David, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dave. We want to bring in ABC News legal contributor Kate Shaw. She's an associate law professor at Cardozo Law School. Kate, good morning to you. So we know that this executive order is already being challenged, but in your estimation, is it unconstitutional?
Well, I would say that applied to individuals who were in transit when this order was signed and who have valid visas or other papers that allow them to be here, very likely yes. And that's what the federal judges who have so far weighed in have said.
And that one federal judge in Brooklyn, in New York, issued a stay. Will it affect cases all around the country?
As it's written, I think it is intended to. We may see some dispute about the scope of that stay, but I do think it is intended to reach everyone in this status.
Everyone in the country. In the meantime, we've seen the video, photos of travelers that are in limbo that are still being detained. What is their status? What's going to happen to them?
Well, as you're seeing, it's a pretty chaotic scene right now. I think that it looks as though things are being handled somewhat differently in different areas. In some airports, everyone's been released from detention and allowed to go home. What's pretty clear is that no one can be deported at this point. But whether there can be continued detention is, I think, a legal question that may be sort of continue to be debated in courts over the course of today and tomorrow because it's not yet clear.
In your legal career, have you ever seen anything happen like this where an executive order is issued and there's immediate confusion and it leads to sort of shockwaves around the world?
Yeah. I do think that looking at this executive order, and others felt similarly, it did feel as though maybe not sufficient thought had gone into implementation, and that is what we are hearing on the ground as well. And I do think that the mobilization that you've seen among lawyers and law professors and law students has been fairly unprecedented. So they are going to be, I think, working all day and sort of through the night until some of these legal issues are resolved.
All right, Kate, we want to thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for weighing in. Appreciate it.